So yes, good morning all of you. I, on behalf of whole Insights IAS team, want to welcome Mr. Shubham, who secured this time rank 41. So congratulations. So now he will tell you about his brief strategy, how he covered a whole prelim syllabus, main syllabus and interview. So he will explain about his journey. Thank you all. Yeah, Pravesh, please.
Hello, I'm audible, right? Yes. Can I get the to write? First of all, good morning, everyone. I really feel great to be on this side because I used to write a lot of tests sitting at the back there. So finally, a relief to be on this side. Before starting with all the strategy and all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Shubham. I am from Bihar, Madhubani district. I did my basic schooling from Bihar itself, Vidya Vihar Residential School, and did my +2 from Delhi Public School, Bokaro. Then I graduated in 2021 from Hansraj College, DU, with honors degree in computer science. Then I gave the attempt in 2022 and I got the rank in the first attempt. So I would like to give few disclaimers, something to say before we move to the strategy. First is how I am associated with Insights IAS. I joined their integrated prelims and mains test series. My whole strategy was based on the IPM test series. Then I joined also IWIL test series after the prelims. I was also part of their interview guidance program and some courses like advanced prelims enrichment course and other things. So second disclaimer is that all things that I would say are based on hindsight analysis, not even analysis but speculation, because we don't know what actually worked in the examination. No one knows, because we don't get our marks in which question, how much marks we got, or the marks we get of our expectations. We expect certain marks in certain papers, we don't get that. So all the things that I am saying, take it with a pinch of salt. You may disagree with what I am saying. You don't have to agree with all the points that I am saying. What I am saying might be in conflict with the other toppers are saying, because our journeys have been different, our strategies have been different. So there is no perfect strategy. Make your own strategy. Take something from me that you feel important. You discard anything that you don't feel important. So just make your own decisions. So I think almost all of you are 24, right? 24 attempt, or anyone gave this year prelims? Few. So you are giving this year mains. Oh, okay. So I would give a brief description of the strategy. I think most of what you know, that you have to revise, you have to study certain books and all those things. I will touch upon that, but mostly I will tell what I did different from the rest of the people, so that I got a rank in the first attempt itself. So I prepared few pointers because I am not good at memorization. So I prepared few pointers. So before that, I would like to give my scores in the exam, so you can see actually where I did good, where I did bad. So essay was 117, GS 196, GS 209, GS 300, GS 416. Optional paper 1 was 152, optional paper 2 146, that's 298, total main mark 836. Then interview was 179 and total 1015. So my optional was geography. How many of you have geography as an optional? Okay, 3 of them. So as you can see, my marks were good and above average in almost all of them. This is the highest this year in the geography optional among those who are selected. This is third highest or fourth highest score in GS3. all are the above average scores. I think 96 would be average. So I had like equal focus on all the papers. I did not focus solely on the optional or the essay or the interview. So my marks were distributed. So this is called hedging, where you hedge on hedge on all the papers so that your efforts are distributed. I will talk about this in the last stage of my talk. So I want the whole session to be interactive. You ask me questions where you don't understand, and the end of the talk, my talk would be brief. I would take questions from you. So like treat this as a personal mentorship session. I would like to request you to ask questions so that your doubts get solved, right? So I will talk in this session about what are the most important things that I think I did which helped me gain confidence in this exam. So the first thing was give tests. Do you want to like know about the sources that I used? Yes. Okay. So before I move to that, like brief description of the sources so that you get the idea. So this would be like integrated both for prelims and mains, because the preparation is integrated. You don't just prepare for the prelims or for the mains or even the interview. All the things you start at the beginning and just do all the things simultaneously. So I start with the history. Ancient India was R.S. Sharma. Medieval was Satish Chandra. I also complemented this with Tamil Nadu class 11 history book. So what I did in all these was, I read these 1 or 2 times. I made my own notes from them so that I did not have to go with all these 3 books again. So I just referred to my notes after I like made my notes from them. So these were the most basic source. For the modern, I just read one thing. I think everyone would read the same thing, Spectrum. I think this is very comprehensive source. You don't need to read beyond that. For post-independent, you can read India Since Independence. Again, read it selectively. I read it fully. I read the full book because I was interested in the post-independent history. India Since Independence by Bipin Chandra. So to know what you have to read in these particular books. You have to go through the syllabus as well as previous year questions. So if you know, in the post-independent thing, they are asking 2-3 things like partition, reorganization, tribal issues. So read only starting chapters from India Since Independence. If you don't want to read India Since Independence, you can refer to few coaching notes of post-independence. They are very short notes, for example, or even the topper's note. I think there is one note of Nitin Sangwan of post-independent India. You can refer to that. For society part, art and culture part, art and culture, I use Nitin Singhania's art and culture book, Nitin Singhania art and culture, and also internet. A lot of things are not given in this book. So I use internet to complement what I have read from this. Again, I made my own notes. So I did not touch Nitin Singhania art and culture. I just used my notes. I added something from the internet, like continuously. If I knew something from both internet, newspaper, anything new, I added these into my notes. I will tell a lot more about notes making somewhere in the middle of the session. So these were the sources. And for the society part, I took the help of Vision's value added material plus again internet. So in society part, there are around 9 to 10 topics. If you see the syllabus, for example, globalization, communalism, social empowerment. So I had like 1 or 2 page notes on all of these things. So these were very short specific notes on the society. But again, if you see last 2-3 year questions, they are asking very like difficult questions, very current affairs based questions. For example, work from home this year was asked. So I don't think there is very good cost benefit of reading from the society static part. Just have the few keywords that you would use in the examination. For example, in social empowerment, various acts of the government, like for transgenders, what acts are there, for disabled people, what acts are there, or what the government initiatives are, or some very keywords like Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. So you can use the keywords. I think in the note itself you can make a keywords sheet. Now coming to the world history part, every year I think one question is asked from the world history, or they might not ask. So if you have time, I read again Visions value added material of world history. Since I had a lot of time and also interest, I read the whole, it's very bulky book. So I read the whole Vision value added material of world history. Again, the cost benefit is not high. It's very bulky book. They ask just one question in the mains. So if you have time and interest, do read. Otherwise, you can ignore it. But I think if one questions come from world history and you are aware of that, it would help differentiate your answer from the others. So if you have time, you can read that. Again, next is geography. Since my optional was geography, I did not read anything for the GS part. But otherwise, you can read NCERT 11 and 12. Then GC Leong, and I guess there is a website called PMF IAS. So in this notes it is given in the very notes format. So something you don't have any knowledge or something you don't have any notes on, you can download notes from this. Also, if your concepts, geography is a very conceptual subject, especially physical geography part. So if your concepts are not clear, you can go to the YouTube, type the concept that you are not aware of, for example, temperate cyclone or the fronts, just type it and you will find a lot of videos explaining the same. So you can use YouTube for conceptual things. So this was GS1, I don't think I have left anything in GS1. So this was my GS1. Again, all the things except for world history, I had my own notes. Geography, I had my own optional notes. So except world history, I had my own notes. I will talk more about notes later. I did not touch these books after I made my own notes. So for GS2, there are like 4 parts in GS2. First is polity. I think everyone would read the same book, Lakshmikant. For governance part and some parts of polity, like comparison of Indian constitution with foreign constitution. Every year one questions come. For example, this year French president election with Indian president election. Like last year or last to last year, they have asked about Britain speaker and Indian speaker. So one question and difficult questions come from the foreign constitution part. So for that, I refer to the vision value added materials. For some part of the polity, like foreign constitution part, RPA part, representation of people act, as well as for governance, I use vision value added material. In the governance, they are like role of civil servants, e-governance, or some various other things. So that part you can do from vision value added material, or you can also use like internet. Just type out the topics mentioned in the syllabus and make your own notes. Again, for social justice part, social justice, I think, yeah, social issues, whatever. I use again the same thing. So the topics are like SHGs or microfinance. Make 1 or 2 page notes and do a lot more value addition in these topics, because these are very current affairs based topics. They might ask some static questions, but a lot of time application or static or the current affairs part come. So you would need a lot more value addition in these two. I will talk more about value addition later. Next was IR, international relations. So since my first preference was IFS, I had interest in IR. I read a lot of books in IR. For the basic foundation, I read Oxford Handbook on Indian Foreign Policy. You don't need to read that, but okay. Indian Foreign Policy. I also read Vision Value Added Material on IR. Again, bulky book. You don't need to read that. If you analyze the previous year questions, IR questions are mostly current affairs. all the 4 questions this year were current affairs, last year also they were current affairs. They might ask one static questions for surprise. So if you have time, you can read this. It would give you a very good background of all the relation of India with other countries as well as multilateral organization. So if you have time and interest, again read this. Otherwise, my only source for current affairs was newspapers. So I used to read Indian Express newspaper, and in that like foreign policy part are like very good. See Rajamohan article comes every Tuesday, or the explained part is very good. So my source were this and Vision Monthly magazine. I also used to read Vision Monthly. So in that IR thing was covered, all the 4 questions except for the climate part, climate wala question. All the things were already in this. Also in the IR part of GS2, you can predict the question that would come. So I had predicted that I2 YouTube would come, Russia-Ukraine war will come, BIMSTEC will come, or the India-Sri Lanka, because these all were in news that year. So you can actually predict the like 6-7 questions predict. At least you will like match with 2 or 3 questions. So in IR you can actually predict the question. This was GS2. For GS3, very comprehensive. GS3, if you see my marks is one of the highest, because in last 2 years the average marks of GS3 has like plummeted. So average marks this year in the late 70s or the early 80s. So maybe you can take something from me for GS3. Again, I don't know what actually worked. I have talked to a lot of my friends. They say the same thing. They wrote the same thing. How I got the marks, I don't know. But I would tell you what gave me confidence to write the answer. The first source for the economy, I did SHUBHAM IAS book for the static part, for the conceptual part like BOP or the capital market, money market, etc. For the rest of the part like agriculture, storage, food processing industry, these are part of the main syllabus. I again used Vision value added material. I use Vision value added material a lot. Again, I made my own notes from them, because these are very bulky things. So make your own notes from them, and you have to do value addition in your notes. For the environment part, I did not read a single book for the environment, because I thought environment was basic thing that I already know from the current affairs. Even in the prelims as well as in the mains, they ask questions mostly from the current affairs. They are very random questions. Like this year they asked of cellulose. I did not know anything about cellulose. Still I filled both the pages. So environment I did not have any source, just newspapers, tests, sometimes internet. If I did not know anything or if I came across anything, I used to like refer to the internet. Again, you can predict the questions in the environment from the like whatever has been in the news. So in the mains they ask mostly current affairs of last 3 months. So if the mains is in September, they would ask mostly from July, August, May, June. So you can like actually predict questions. If something is in the news in last 4 months, they might ask, they might not. So you have to take the risk. So for environment, for science and tech, again this is a current affair based thing. They ask questions mostly from the current affairs. So what I did was, for science and tech, I created online notes for the basic stuff like nuclear technology, fission, fusion, stem cell technology, or biotechnology, robotics, web 3.0, blockchain. So something that was in the news. I used to like get the basic background from the internet. So I use internet a lot for science and tech, and tests complemented my all the preparation for science and tech. I don't think you have to read any book. If you have PCM background, you don't need to read a lot of things. Just follow the newspapers, monthly magazines, or the daily news analysis that you read. You would get a good background of the basic stuff, because everything like gets repeated. You would read about nuclear fusion. Every time it is in news, every time there is a breakthrough in nuclear fusion technology, you would read about that. Everything there is blockchain in news, you would read. So I used to like repetitively read all these things in the newspapers or the daily news analysis. So I did not feel the need to prepare a separate like offline notes of science and tech or read any book. Next is internal security. So again I used vision value added material and made my own notes. If you analyze the last 2-3 years papers, they ask directly from the topics mentioned in the syllabus. So there are around 7-8 topics of the internal security, like use of organized crimes or the relation between left-wing extremism or the money laundering stuff. So they ask directly from the syllabus. So if you have 2-3 page notes of every topic mentioned in the syllabus, you would get a lot of benefit in GS3. In GS3, all the questions that were asked this year in the internal security, I had it in my notes. So it became very easier for me. I think that helped me get the 100 marks. So even in science and tech, I predicted a lot of questions based on current affairs. So I had predicted that the James Webb Telescope might come. It came actually that year. So it helped me a lot. So in GS3 paper, you can actually predict questions. You would have a lot of time. So you predict questions from 10 set of 10 questions, you might get 1 or 2. So based on the current affairs, you can predict questions. In disaster management, again I use the same thing, vision value added material, and made my own notes. Again, own notes. I just read it 1 or twice and made my own notes and did lot of value addition to my notes. So these were my basic source for GS3. I did not think I have not left any portion in GS3. Again GS4. GS4, what I did was, first I went through the topics mentioned in the syllabus. There are like 7-8 topics like emotional intelligence or the foundational values or corruption, something like that. So I just googled all the things that I did not know of. For example, difference between attitude and aptitude, what emotional intelligence is. So I googled it and started giving tests. I will talk more about tests later. So I started giving tests in the very beginning, like in the June 2021 itself. So when I started giving tests, I thought that I was not confident enough based only on my reading from the internet. So again I made my own notes based from internet, value added material of vision, and synopsis of the tests that I used to give, and did again a lot of value addition in my own notes. Again I will tell that later. So these were my most basic source. For GS4, the only strategy that I think works is giving a lot of tests, having a lot of practice for GS4, because every year the question paper is becoming very lengthy. So you have to practice completing the paper in the 3 hours. I don't think a lot of people complete. I don't think more than like 80% people complete their GS4 paper. So like only thing I would recommend you to give a lot of tests for the GS4. This was my basic for all the GS. For essay, at the beginning I read few like test copies of various toppers, the toppers who have got very good marks in the essay. For example, Vikram Grewal sir. So what I found was I could not copy their style. Everyone has their own original style of writing. So I would recommend you to have originality in your essay, because UPSC is looking for originality. My essay mark I think is just above average. So I again made my own notes for essay. Own notes of what? Quotes, some philosophers, what their philosophy are. For example, Durkheim or some Chinese philosopher, Confucius and all, Indian philosopher. I made some small points of it. I think there is a YouTube channel called School of Life. So in that they have like 4-5 minute videos of every scholar, Western scholar, Eastern scholars. So School of Life, check that. I think Vikram Grewal sir had told about this. So I made a short notes about School of Life of philosophers from School of Life YouTube channel, so that I could quote philosophers in my actual essay. So I used to quote a lot of philosophers plus anecdotes. Whenever I used to find good anecdotes or case studies in the newspapers, I used to add it in my essay notes. So these were basic. I just wrote a lot of essay. My score used to be like vary from 110 to 140. So I don't think there is a lot of things to say about essay. Just write essay, whatever good you feel. Your essay should be original. There is no fixed format. So a lot of people say that you should be horizontal dimension, vertical dimension, pastel approach, or n number of approach, or you have to give a lot of examples. You have to be coherent, or you have to like start with anecdote, end with anecdote. All the things have already been tried. The examiners know what the students do. So I would like just tell you to be original. Think about what original you can bring to the essay. If not, you can take the safe bet, and I took the safe bet and just wrote about the vertical and horizontal dimension. That's why I got above average or average marks. So you can be either thing, be original or take the safe bet. So these were the essay sources. I have done GS 1, 2, 3, 4. Optional, I have already done a video, so I won't be going much about the optional. And now coming to the part where I think is the most important part, what I did differently from others so that I got a rank in the first attempt. The most important thing I did, I gave a lot of tests. I don't want to brag, but if I give a number, I gave more than 100 tests for the prelims, more than 80 tests for the mains, more than 20 mock interviews. So you can see I gave a lot of tests, and these tests were not just from the one coaching institute. These were well distributed from 3 and 4. I used to give prelims tests of every coaching institute. Most of the tests are free. During the prelims, you would find that they would give you reminders of free tests. So I used to give a lot of free tests. I was part of the Insights IPM, so I gave a lot of tests. I gave Vision Abhyas, GS Core Simulator test. So I gave a lot of tests for the prelims. Why I gave lot of tests? At the beginning itself, I realized that I have to write stuff. Examiner would know your caliber only by reading your answers. Whatever you read, whatever you revise, does not matter if you can't produce the same thing on the paper. So I realized that in the beginning of the preparation. So I started writing tests at the very beginning. I started seriously preparation in June 2021. My prelims was on 5 June 2022. So I started writing the test. I knew that my answers won't be great, but I still continued with that. So I gave a lot of tests. But again, how do you analyze your test? That's more important. So what I used to do, first I used to like first I would like brief introduction about the test. I joined IPM test, integrated prelims and mains of there. So it started from June 21. So these tests used to be in a strategic manner. So first test, say if art and culture, both prelims and mains, art and culture. So I used to make my own notes, revise, give art and culture test, and society plus world history. So again there was a gap of 1 week. So I used to make my own notes, revise, give test. Then again geography, revise, give test. Then again GS1 test. So combining all this, and these all were 3 hour tests, not sectional 1 hour test. Sectional 3 hour. I did not give a single 1 hour or 2 hour test. I gave all these tests are 3 hour full length test. So I completed all my papers and then revised and give GS. The same cycle repeated for GS2, GS3, GS4, and in between there used to be essay tests. So even before prelims I had given more than 50 tests. So one cycle of this got completed by January 2022. I had given one full cycle as part of IPM 1.0. Then in between January and March 2022, there used to be a second cycle of the same thing. So before prelims I had given 2 iterations of GS and a lot of essay tests. So this used to be my schedule. I won't be saying that you should copy this thing. It would depend on your own strategy or what you think you are comfortable in. But this is what I did. This actually helped me get my notes in place. So before the prelims, my notes were consolidated. After the prelims, I did not feel any pressure. I had confidence that I would just revise and give a lot more tests. So this was used to my schedule of the test. So analysis of test. So after I used to give tests, say after art and culture, I used to see what questions I was not getting, why I was not getting, whether it was conceptual error, whether it was factual error or the recall error, whether I used to, whether the problem was in revision or problem was something new that I learned. So something new if I learned from the test series, I used to add it in my notes. Something if there was a recall error, I used to just go revise more. I would talk about revision later. So this was my test. The analysis I used to do in the manner as I said. So I gave a lot of tests. I used to perform very good in tests. So in the very beginning itself, in the second test, I got more than 110 in the 3-hour length test. So it actually gave me confidence that I belong here, that I can easily like qualify this examination if I just show up every day. We all join a lot of test series and don't give all the tests, right? You must have like heard this factor, or like you might have experienced the same. But I gave all the tests of the not all the tests, around 90% tests of the IPM, since it continued till April and May. But in April and May, I just focused on the prelims preparation. So I gave almost 90% of my IPM tests, all the tests that I joined. So after the prelims, you focus completely on the mains. So for mains, I joined Vision's mains test series, I will test series of insights, and plus Abhyas simulator test series that they do in schools, and optional test series. I just used to revise and give tests for the mains. I also like planned my tests, so that I used to get 2-3 days for revision and then give tests, again 2-3 days revision and give tests. Luckily for me, I did not come across new things in these tests because my notes were very comprehensive, my notes were consolidated. So I did not find the need to add something from these tests, so that my whole plan actually worked. I just revised, gave tests, some value addition I did. If I found good diagrams, good examples, good case studies, good facts, that I added in my notes from all these things. So I just gave a lot of tests. This was my only strategy, I would say, giving a lot of tests, and it actually gave me confidence that I can easily score. And the two things I think the test helped was the first, completing the paper in time. This is very important. You don't want to leave the questions in actual mains examination. I completed all my papers before time. Even the GS4 paper, which was very lengthy this year, I completed 5 minutes before. So what I did in the last 5 minutes, beautify my paper so that the presentation becomes good. So I underlined few stuff, the quotes, I added quotes in the conclusion, or just underline the what do you call headings or the subheadings, or you make box in the headings. I don't know if it works or not. Just I think it beautifies the paper. It makes the paper look good. So if you give a lot of tests, you start like completing the paper. If I tell you about the first few tests, I could complete my paper only in 3.5 hours. If you start writing tests now, you won't be completing in 3 hours. Even the quality of your answers won't be good. So, but start writing. You accept that you won't be completing the paper. Acceptance is the key in this exam. Accept that revision would be boring. Accept that you have to give the test. Accept that you won't be getting good marks at the beginning. You won't be completing the paper. But stick with that. Be consistent. I was like consistent in all my tests. I used to give the test on time. I did not like postpone the test. I used to give tests on time. Be consistent. So first thing is, test will help you in completing the paper with quality answers. Second was applying my strategy. So for each paper, each GS as well as optional paper, you prepare few strategy. This strategy is related to the structure of your answer or the presentation. These are very like buzzwords of the mains examination: structure and presentation. So before I gave the paper, I used to like think what structure would I write in few questions. For example, if the question is elaborate, what structure I would I would apply in the answer. If the question is critical analysis, how would I answer the question? Again, these were the frameworks I had in mind, but you have to be flexible in the examination, because the questions won't come what exactly you think. They would just give one statement in the quotes and explain. So in that question the structure becomes difficult. I would show you my answer sheets later, but if the question is like give the causes and the solution, so in that structuring become easy. So you can just easily say cause of the something something, if a subheading can be this, and next subheading can be natural causes, and again this anthropogenic causes, again you can write few points here. So in that structure becomes easy. But in questions where they just give a quote and say elaborate or critically analyze or something like that, in that what my strategy was, there were few types of intro that I could use. There are like methods of writing intros, whether it could be giving the context of the quotes. If I had data, I would start with data. If it required definition, for example, if the question was about sustainable development or blockchain or something that is not common and you know the definition of, you can also start with definition. Or if you don't have anything of this, you can just briefly describe the quotes. So this was my structure that I had in mind. So I used to think it before I started giving tests. So in the test I used to apply, I used to like analyze whether I was able to apply the strategy whatever I had like thought previously in the test. So test will help you in applying the same strategy. So I used to further in the body, what I used to do, one small subheading. In the quote itself you would find 2 or 3 keywords. So you have to like elaborate a keyword. If that is critically analyzed, one subheading of pro of the quotes that is given, and one subheading of the antithesis of the quotes that is given. So these used to be 2 subheadings. Then again in the conclusion you have to like you can either be write way forward thing in the conclusion. You can end with buzzwords like SDG, or the buzzwords like as I said Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat or sustainable development. You can give case studies if you find good examples to support the question, the core demand of the question, of best practices as they say. You can also end with best practices. So I already prepared a lot of things like how my questions would start, how my questions would end, what the body would be, what diagrams I would draw in what questions. If it was India question, I would draw the India diagram. If even I would draw the regional diagram, say just peninsula or the northeast. So I had already prepared this strategy and I used to apply this in the test, so that at the actual mains it won't come as a surprise. I would be like acquainted with all my strategy. I would have practiced it in the test. So these 2 things is the most important in the test: completing the paper and applying your strategy. So this was the test, the most important thing in the preparation. I would like guarantee you that if you give more than 100 prelims tests, you would easily qualify. Again, you have to like improve the scores, not just keep the score flat like get 70 marks in all the 100. Your scores should gradually improve. In the mains, if you write more than 50 tests, you would easily qualify, at least like you would pass the cutoff thing. So write test. Test is the most important thing in this examination at all the stages. So I would request you to like just give tests, show up every day. I used to like sit here and there. I used to give tests here only before the whole test center thing started near Popular Juice. So I used to give tests here. So just give tests. Second most important thing that I did was make my own notes. I did not purchase any topper notes or did not look into any topper notes. I just made my own notes. Why? Because I realized that if I made my own notes, it was easier for me to memorize the same things. So my notes used to get imprinted in my memory. So recall factor used to be very quick. So if I saw one question, if it was in my notes, I used to just copy paste my notes in the examination. Obviously you have to be flexible and like do something plus minus. So but my notes actually helped me get the core of the questions or the value addition things like the examples or the data which were in my notes actually helped me in the examination. So I used to make my own notes. So but a lot of you might ask like, how do you make notes? How do you start making notes? So I started making notes again in the June 2021 itself. So I used to like read the book. First step was read a standard book, say Spectrum. Again, it depends on whether you have time or not. For a book like Spectrum or Lakshmikant, which are already in the notes format, you don't need to be like, you don't need separate notes. I did not have notes for the Lakshmikant, but I had notes for the Spectrum because I thought Spectrum is not extensive. So I made notes of Spectrum, not Lakshmikant. Again, one like fundamental rule of note making is that if your sources are multiple, if you have 2 or 3 sources of a particular topic, if you are say society, you are reading from 2 and 3 sources, then make note of that, because you don't want to be juggling between various sources at the end of your exam. Like one day before the GS1 paper, you should have only one consolidated source. So if your source is 2 or 3 things, make your own notes. So this is the fundamental thing. First I used to read the standard books, then I not more than 2 times. So less than 2 times, less than or equal to 2 times I would read the book. Like first time as a story, second time like what I need from the perspective of UPSC. Then I used to underline in the second reading itself. I used to underline what are the important things, and then I would make my own notes. So my notes were in the A4 sheets, not copies. Why I made in A4 sheets was that I can easily like push a page if I find something new. So I just used to like binder thing. So if I get something new, if I wanted to add something new in my notes, I would just include one more sheet in my A4 like binder thing. So I made A4 sheets. Even in some of my notes, I left few space on the right for adding. For in the GS4 notes, I made this thing in all the A4 sheets, and in these things, whatever thing I used to like learn new, for example something quotes or the buzzwords or the keywords for the GS4 or the best practices, I used to write in this space, or something new or something that is not there in the syllabus, not in my notes, I used to write. So you can do this thing, but your notes should be also very short. So in the market there is a thing called make first bulky notes from the classrooms or the standard books, then make a short note of that for revising quickly. What I did was I had just one note, no bulky, no short notes. My notes were only concise, so I did not have to like do the same thing again and again. I made my notes very concise. How do you make your notes concise? You don't copy from the standard book, just don't copy everything that is mentioned. Copy what has been like the very core of the question. Core of what the topic is. Don't copy factual things. For example, in the Spectrum, I did not copy about what are the movements or the socio-economic movements were there. I just did Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Brahmo Samaj, year something like that. What were its aims, like widow, remarriage, sati, whatever. But again I like Dharm Sabha or something like that. Then again Theosophical Society, something like that. So my notes were there in the phrases. I did not even write complete sentences. It used to be in phrases. You can also use some creative things in your notes, like diagrams. You can draw diagrams. You can draw your own personalized diagrams. So for my optional, since my optional was geography, in the books the diagram used to be very bulky. For example, if you draw India map, they would like give more than 20% rainfall, more than 50% rainfall, more than 80% or something else. For even sex ratio, more than 800 or say more than 900, more than 950. So what I used to do was make the map, then simplify these things. So I would say above national average, below national average. So if the sex ratio national average is 923, I think say some 923, so I would draw one all the states where it is above 923 and below I would do something else. So this would very simplify your maps. So you can actually do this in the GS also. So if you get a diagram somewhere or maps, you can make your own personalized maps and diagrams in your notes. I used to do that. So again, this will come gradually. I did not get this thing at the beginning of my preparation. So when I just started writing more, just started knowing more about the things, I realized that I can actually do these things. So you would get that at the end of the cycle, say after prelims, or when you are starting, when you are completely focused on the mains preparation. So your notes should evolve, your notes should be flexible, your notes should not be like just static, just if in the first attempt the notes you have prepared, you are carrying the same notes again and again. Your notes should have extra spaces, your notes should contain new things, your notes should have value addition. So these were how I made notes. So if you have any questions from notes making, otherwise we would have common Q&A. But till now from the tests and notes parts, if you have any question. No, then I will move. So I did not use to like bind wala thing. There is a one clipper thing, right? So my notes were not this bulky. My notes, I don't think it would be more than 50-60 A4 sheets. So very small notes. I used to just use the clip for the having my. I used to also number my notes, pages 1, 2, 3, so that I don't like lose my pages. So 1, 2, 3, you can number the pages and use the clipper thing. So the next thing is, again, the next thing would help you get few extra marks. Don't leave out any micro topic. So what a lot of people or the mentors say is that focus on big things like polity or the economy, or even in polity give more focus on fundamental rights or the state relations, center relations. But what I did was I had my notes for every single micro topic. What I meant from micro topic was, for example, if I give in internal security, I had notes of external communication devices. There is a one, like if you see the syllabus, I think there is external something like that. So I had notes of this also, because if the questions come from this, you would be at the advantageous position. So if you have time, I think you have time, right? You will be giving 24 attempts. So you have 1 year, and 1 year is a very long time. So you can make notes of, read all the micro topics mentioned in the syllabus. This is applicable for both GS as well as optional. Lot of your optional would be very bulky, say PSIR or the geography, especially geography. They have very small things like patterns of world trade or say agriculture regionalization. These are not taught in the actual foundation courses. In the foundation course, if you have joined, you would see even in the GS as well as optional, they would teach you around 80 to 90% of the things, and they leave out 10% for your own like preparation. So I did not leave a single micro topic. I used to do the 10% thing on my own. So these, and every year 1 or 2 questions in the optional and few questions in the GS comes from these micro topics. If I give an example of optional, my optional was geography. So they asked a question of speleothems this year, the very first question in paper 1. I don't think 90% of those who wrote the paper knew about speleothems, because again this is a micro topic about the karstic structure, karst structures. So I actually read about them, I had them in my notes, so it became easier for me. I could draw a lot of diagrams, I could give a lot of examples of the speleothems. So please don't leave micro topics. Micro topics means you just read the syllabus, see what have you left out or you don't have notes of, or you don't have studied those things. Make a list of those things, go to the internet or the standard books and read those things. Even if you don't make notes, read those things, have a basic blueprint of the micro topics mentioned in the syllabus. For knowing what those micro topics are, you have to like go to the syllabus, read it. Like I had memorized all the GS syllabus as well as optional syllabus. Like if I give an example, my desktop wallpaper was my geography optional syllabus. It's like 3-page syllabus. So my three wallpapers were my geography optional syllabus. So every time I opened my laptop, I used to like see my syllabus. So just paste syllabus somewhere and just read it daily. So don't leave out any micro topic. Fourth is multiple revision. Everyone would say that revision is the key, revision is the key. But revision is very boring, right? If you are like, if you are tried to revise something, it will like, I found revision very boring. So, but again, I accepted that it would be boring, but it is required. So I tried a little like kind of a game for revision. As I told, I had a test every week. So suppose if say it was a test of GS1, I used to revise not for the examination of mains or the prelims. I used to revise for the test that I was giving, so that I know what I am revising for, so that I can know that the revision that I am doing, whether it is working or not, whether whether the revision is lacking something or not. So if you have a purpose for revision, you would actually find revision lot less boring. So don't revise for the mains. That I don't think you would be writing mains for the 1 year. The mains is in September next year, except for the few of you. So it would be like very boring to revise the same thing again and again for the mains. So if you have joined any test series, revise for the same thing. If you have not joined test series, after you complete a unit, say after you have completed history part, go to the previous year questions, see the previous year question, make a list of say 20 questions of history and give a sectional 3-hour test. Just give yourself, don't get it evaluated by someone. If you have someone for evaluation, you can give it to the evaluation team. But if you don't have someone for the evaluation, just give the test so that you can see where you are lacking, whether you are able to revise the stuff or not, whether you are able to recall the same thing, whether you are able to complete the paper well. After you give the test, just go through the paper, go through your own answer. You would realize that your answers are not good or your answers are good, because it is very like blueprint of how your answer should be. Your answer should have good introduction. The body of the answer should cover every core demand of the question. Every question nowadays has 2 or 3 demands of the question. So know the demand of the question. Then again, your conclusion should have few buzzwords. Your conclusion should be futuristic, or your conclusion can even be summary of the things. So see whether you are fulfilling all these criteria or not. You can do this thing even by yourself, even not by joining some test series, so that your revision becomes effective. The point of having multiple revision is having revision become more productive. So I used to revise for the test. I used to revise since my notes were very crisp. I used to revise in a day. So even for my geography optional, I could simply revise all the things in 2 days. I had 3 classmate notebooks of my geography optional. So I used to revise all the things in 2 days. So after there is a gap between GS 1, 2, 3, 4 paper and the optional paper. These two happen in 2 different weekends. So you get around 4 or 5 days. So in 4 days, I used to revise my optional paper twice. So having crisp notes help you in revision. So multiple revision can only happen if you have your own crisp notes. As well as you can do sectional revision. So what I meant by sectional revision, so if you have test of say sectional test, so history or history, you can do revision only of history. Or if you have like after you give a test, you find that you are less comfortable in say fundamental rights chapter or the chapter of say governance, just read those chapters. You don't have to go again and again. Even for the optional part, revise only those things which you find you are lacking, you don't have confidence of. So these multiple revisions are not revising the whole Lakshmikant again and again. These multiple revision can be revising those things, say one chapter or citizenship chapter, the fundamental or DPSP chapters. Those things you are not. So this would happen at the times of mains as well as at the times of prelims. So I used to do the same thing. So also multiple revision will help you in like getting the small things right. So if you read Lakshmikant a lot of times, every time you would find something new. So I don't know if you know or not, the oath of the president is different from the other things. The president oath for the defending the constitution, which is not in the other, like say vice president or the governors or something else. So you would find small things every time you read Lakshmikant, or every time you read your own notes. Because say ancient India, you won't be like memorizing all the stuffs. Ancient India is very hard like to memorize, but if you like do multiple revisions, you would be able to like memorize small things, like whether the sati was prevalent in the post Vedic, or whether it was in the Mauryan thing or not, whether it was in the Gupta era or not. So multiple revision will help you in getting your concept and factual clarity right. So since if you have seen this year prelims paper, they are asking all the 3 statements type questions. So in that you would need conceptual clarity, factual clarity. You will get these 2 things only from revision, so that your very small concepts are correct. So I would request you do multiple revision. Till now, if anyone have questions about revision, yeah. Yeah, my daily schedule was, since the test was weekly, I had daily targets, and daily targets used to be like for the weekly targets. So daily targets used to merge with weekly. So if I say I had test on Saturday, I had 5 days for completing my syllabus for the test on Sunday, on the Saturday. So I used to complete the note making and revision, note making and reading the standard books part in say 4 days. One day I used to do revision. And give the test on Saturday. Then the same day itself, I did not have any plans for studying new things. I used to give the test, read the synopsis or do the analysis. So these were my these were my test plan, and this used to repeat till the prelims, repeat for the mains. So these were my actual schedule. If I give you my daily schedule, so I had daily targets to complement this cycle. So for my daily, I did not join any foundation coaching for GS, but I had my geography optional foundation coaching. So in the morning, say from 9:30 to 10, I used to read newspaper, that is Indian Express. Then till around 10:30, I used to do random stuff like watch YouTube, watch new videos that come on YouTube, or just go through my social media. Then from 10:30 to 11:30, I used to do daily answer writing. So previous night itself, I would compile, I would say in the end, previous night itself, around say after I complete my daily target after 11 PM, I used to compile what questions I would do in this session, daily answer writing session. So since I had joined IPM test series, in that IPM test series you would find that there are like 2 questions you can send to the faculty, or you can upload on the portal, and the next day they will evaluate you and they give the feedback. They would upload the evaluated copy. So I used to follow this, I used to take advantage of this. I used to write a lot more than 2 questions in this session, a timed session. So if say 1 hour, I should write like 5-10 markers, or sometimes 15 markers. So for 10 markers, I used to give myself 7 minutes, 15 marker 10 minutes. So it used to be time test, and out of these 3, I used to decide here only last night what questions I would practice in this, and also some knowledge about that. So that I won't be feeling blank when I start daily answer. So I have to pick out questions, have some background about them. So these questions were mostly from the current affairs at the beginning, because in the beginning you won't be completing your syllabus, you won't have completed GS 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. So I used to do mostly case studies things, and case studies for GS 4 and current affairs thing. So my purpose was not to know new things. My purpose was of this daily answer writing was to like get myself to write good answers, so that I complete the question in 7 or 10 minutes. I get my structuring right, my presentation right, and my speed right. I also used to work on the feedback. This actually helped me. I continued this for around 3 months. So June till September, I did the daily answer writing thing. So from 11 till 12, I used to revise the optional of what has been taught in the previous class, because my optional classes used to be from 12 to 2 p.m. So I used to revise what is going on in the class so that I know what will be taught in the class or what has been taught. I think you can do this thing so that it becomes easier in the class. So 12 to 2 used to be my geography optional. Then lunch and other things. From 3:30 to 5:30 I used to do GS thing, read some GS. So my optional and GS was simultaneous. So I would do some GS, say history was going on, or whole GS one thing was going on. So I used to do this as well as do optional. Then again 6:30 to 8:30 again I did optional. I focus more on my optional, as you can see. Optional, in this what I used to do, again revise what has been going on in my optional class, as well as do value additions. A lot of things won't be taught in the optional class, so I used to go back to the standard book. So in case of geography there is Savinder Singh or the DR Kullar. I used to go to the books, read from the books, read what has not been taught in the class, and used to add it in my notes. So I used to revise, add into my notes from the standard books in these 2 hours, as well as write some answers, not regularly, but if I had time after doing all those things, I have to see the previous year questions of that topic which has been taught in the class and see whether I am able to answer it or not. Then again 9:30 to 10, I used to do daily news analysis. So reading newspaper is not enough. Newspaper is very crude source, is for the perspective. So I did not used to read newspapers from UPSC perspective. For me, newspaper was like a daily habit. I used to read cover to cover, all the things. So a lot of toppers or even mentors would say that read only those news which are like related to the UPSC syllabus. But I did not do this. I used to read all the sports page, all the Bollywood movie review page, all the editorials or the thing, anything that I found interesting, I used to read in the newspapers. So it actually, I think, worked. If you see the prelims paper this year or even the 1 year before that, they are asking sports related questions or the Bollywood awards questions or the sports award questions. So I think you have to move beyond what is mentioned in the UPSC syllabus. Even in the like UPSC prelims syllabus, they can ask anything, the national, international events or something like that. So they can ask anything from the current affairs. So I would request you not to limit yourself to those mentioned in the UPSC syllabus. Read newspapers wholeheartedly. So after reading newspapers, I used to read daily news analysis from some websites. So I don't know if they censor it or not. So I used to read Drishti IAS and Vision IAS. So this would take around half an hour, so that I get the background of the events that are happening, that's in the news. So if say G20 is in the news, they would give the background of G20, like when it was formed, who are the members, why it was formed, what has been achievements, what has been drawbacks. So this actually gives the background of the events. Also, I used to read only one newspapers, but it might not have all the news, all the small news. So these two sources used to have like a compilation from all the sources like Hindu or the Business Standards or Down to Earth or Yojana and stuff. So they had news from every other sources apart from the Indian Express that I was reading. So it helped me get the background of the news as well as enlarge my sources, not just limit to the Indian Express. So this I used to do from 9:30 to 10. It won't take you more than half an hour. From 10 p.m. Till I don't know when I had daily targets. So if my daily targets, say my daily targets were completed by 11 p.m. I should like just finish by 11 p.m. do this thing, question wala thing, that what I would write the next day and just watch movie or web series or something. So this was my like daily schedule. Most of the time I had like free half an hour or an hour in the night. So I used to watch a lot of movies or highlights of the cricket or various sports. I watch a lot of sports, say F1, badminton, cricket. So I used to watch the highlights of all the things in the free time. So yeah, that's important. So I did not make like bulky notes from the current affairs. What I did was, if I found something interesting, what I meant by interesting was first data, examples and case studies, case studies, some quotes and buzzwords. Or data example, case, quotes and buzzwords. These all things, or diagrams. So Indian Express explained page, they come with some diagrams. For example, geography, they come with regional diagrams or like that, or the India map. So I used to note these things in a diary. So I used to maintain a diary with dates. So say 6 June current affairs, 6 June newspaper I am reading. So if I found something interesting, I just used to like mention some, just one line, not bulky, not background or something, just mention. I would say there is a factual thing of prelims. So some new things came, some like for example, say CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism of EU. So I just used to write CBAM, EU. No background, nothing. I used to read it, but my notes used to have only these things in my diary. So after the end of prelims, what I did, I compiled all the things from my diary into some sheets. So I compiled into say data sheets. Data sheet. So GS1, what all data can I use? For GS2, what all data can I use? GS3, what all data can I use? Then again for another sheet was for examples and case studies. What all data can I use, or what all data for GS1, 2, 3, as well as for my optional. So these were data and example sheet I compiled from the diary I used to have. So this actually helped in the value addition. I would have told this in value addition. So I made this note, not some bulky notes for the current affairs. I used to follow Vision Monthly magazine. So in Vision Monthly, I used to just highlight whatever was important and revise the same thing. I did not revise my notes. This diary I maintained, I did not touch it. Just I touched it for the completion part of the these examples and data. I used to revise the current affairs from the monthly magazine itself. I did not make any single notes from my own. Just revise Vision Monthly magazine more than 10 times. Any question till now? Yeah.
Regarding this 3 months Prelims-cum-Mains preparation, how you handle
Current affairs.
No, sir. The preparation during mains, Prelims-cum-Mains phase, how you handle it?
For me, as I was saying, I had my notes, everything, my syllabus were completed even before my prelim. So what I did, I don't know if it's applicable to you or not, I just revised and gave a lot of tests. Just revised test and did value addition. Like as I was saying, after the prelims I did this thing, making separate sheet of examples, data, case studies, or the quotes for the essay that I did compile from the internet on all the diary that I have maintained. So I did not do anything, I just wrote test, revised, analyzed, value addition. This was the cycle I did again and again and again.
What about the composition, sir? For optional as well as the GS?
For the GS, I think it was, as I said, I gave the equal focus on all the things. So there was no like fixed schedule about I would read just 4 hours for the GS or the 4 hours for the optional. It used to depend what test I had. So if I had GS1 test, I used to revise GS1 in the days previous to that. If I had optional test, say sometimes I had 2 tests on the same day, GS1 as well as optional paper. So in the same 2 days, I would give half time to GS1 and half time to optional, and newspaper and daily analysis continued. Even during the mains days, I used to read the newspaper and the daily news analysis. I would give an example. This year GS1 rubber industry question came, and the same day before GS1, say GS1 was on Saturday, on the Friday daily news analysis, there was a whole article, a whole like thing about rubber industry, about the location of rubber industry, the problem it is facing. So this actually helped me in the GS1 paper. I don't know, the score is not reflecting that, but it helped me in the examination. I thought my GS1 paper went very well. I was not expecting less than 105, but again, you can't predict anything with UPSC. So again, my strategy might not be applicable to you. You have to like devise your own strategy. Yeah. I think it just happened with the flow. I think in 5, if you get 5 or 6 days in between examination, you can like give 3 days to reading books, 2 days to make own notes, not just 2 days for reading books, 2 days for making notes, and 1 day for revision. I think that's enough now. Unless you are doing foundation coaching, that goes very slow. Your classes are very long, you don't have time for making your own notes, or you just make your own class notes and then I think make short notes of the class notes. I did not go into that. I just read my reading speed is very good, so I used to like read books very fast. I used to underline books very fast. Again, my writing speed is also very quick, so I used to like make notes very quickly. Since my notes are very less bulky, like 50-60 pages, so I used to complete making notes in 2 days. So I think it worked for me. It might not work for you, I don't know, but this was I used to like complete all the things in 1 week. And these were not GS1 thing, right? I did not complete whole GS1 in 1 week. I just completed say art and culture in 1 week, or say polity in 1 week, or IR in 1 week, IR plus say governance in 1 week. But GS1 whole took more than 2 months. I still remember I started preparing from June 15. June 14 was my last paper of my graduation. So I started preparing on June 15. First GS test I give on June 30 or 1st August, I don't remember. Then actual GS1 paper, all the cycle was in 15 September, if I recall correctly. So it took me June, July, August, September, 4 months for only completing my GS1. Then again till October, late October, it took me for GS2. So 1.5 months for GS2. Again for GS3 it was completed by December end. So again 1.5 months for GS3, and GS4 15 to 20 days because it's not bulky GS4. So again in 1 week I did not complete the syllabus. It took me a time, 4 months, 1.5 months, 1.5 months, 20 days. So I completed a very specific part in 1 week. So I think that answers your question. Any further question till now? Next, 5th thing that I did. Yeah. देखो short notes I did not make. I made very one note. As I was saying, one crisp note, no bulky note and short note. Now your question, what to write in the notes? As I was saying, underline the stuff in the book that you think is important. If you say it's a sentence like 3 or 4 sentences that you have underlined, pick out the keywords and make phrases out of them. And then again like structure your notes. Say give subheading to your notes, causes of 1857 rebellion. First cause, write something, just one phrase. Second cause, third cause. Don't write factual like who was at the Delhi or who was at the Bakht Khan was at something, or Rani Lakshmi was where, or which British soldier, which British captain was where, who was in Jhansi. It's a very factual question. You won't remember. Even although I had mentioned that very small place, I had mentioned that who was at where, but I could not remember even after multiple revisions. So there is no point of doing that in your in your notes. You are making notes for the mains. You are not making notes for the prelims. You are doing very small value addition in your notes for the prelim, like factual addition. My purpose of making notes was for the mains, because for prelims these are very factual questions or even the conceptual questions. If the conceptual questions in the prelims, this will be like this will be done actually by this, right? Conceptual is causes or the factors or something like consequences. Factually, I used to just make small things in my notes, or just paste sticky notes in my notes. So if I find something good factual, I used to just do this. So as I said, just underline things, pick keywords, make phrases, structure your notes, and facts add in a small box somewhere. Next thing was, I think, next thing I did is choosing the optional. This is also an important thing because optional can make or break your score. Choosing the correct optional. So I just did not chose that I would give geography as my optional. I did a lot of analysis even in my college. So when I was in the college, I decided that I will be giving this examination. So I thought which optional to choose. So at first I thought I would choose Sanskrit, because I was very good at Sanskrit back in my school. I used to get almost 100% or 99%. So I thought I would choose Sanskrit, but when I like researched for the Sanskrit paper, I saw that the average marks is not very high. It used to be in the 270, even the highest marks used to be in the 270 or 280. And the guidance and the resources available in the market for the Sanskrit was not good. This I realized after I did the analysis of Sanskrit. So the next best option that I thought was geography, simply because it was my second best subject after Sanskrit in school. So I thought, chalo, geography lete hain. Then again I did the analysis. What I did was saw the syllabus, what are the resources available in the market, what are the mentors or guidance available in the market. Since I had no background of geography, I needed these resources and mentors. Then I saw the PYQs, whether I would be able to do it or not. So after doing all these things, I realized that I can easily like become confident in geography. So even before like finishing my graduation, since it was COVID time and we were at home and DU had open book examination, so I did not read anything for my graduation. So I was feeling bored, so I brought all the standard books of my optional, all the Savinder Singh books and the NCRTs and all the reference book I purchased in online. And before I started my preparation, I just went through it as a story so that I become familiar with all the topics mentioned in the syllabus. What I realized after reading all these things, I did not read it extensively, just as a story. So what I realized is that this is a very technical subject. Geography is very technical. It's like science, it's a lot of theories. So what I found was I would need some foundational coaching for geography. So I joined foundational coaching with Sabir Ahmad sir. So I did foundational coaching for my optional. So for your own respective optional, decide very strategically whether the optional that you are choosing is very high scoring or not, whether you have interest or not. So my formula is 70-30. For choosing your optional, there should be 70% interest in the optional and 30% the strategy. So a lot of people are going towards strategy these days, like choosing PSIR or Anthro, because these are very high scoring, or the toppers are from the these PSIR and anthropology. But I think more focus should be given on interest, because almost all the optional are very bulky. So if you have to complete the syllabus, you should have interest in that. If you have to score very good in your optional, you have to have interest in that, so that you can differentiate your answer. If you see all the optional paper 2, the questions are GS format questions, because if all those are PSIR or sociology or even in geography, GS2 paper is very generic questions. They would ask what are the effect of climate change in India, or the panchayat I'm talking about geography optional. So they would ask panchayati raj system or smart cities. So how do you make it geographic, or if you have PSIR, how you would relate it with the political theories or the IR theories. So for that you should have interest. You should read beyond the prescribed books. So for my optional, I used to read geopolitical magazines or the foreign policy magazines, like Foreign Policy, that's the name of the magazine. Foreign Affairs. I used to read random articles on the internet, whichever I found interesting. I used to like go on the internet, search for the particular geography topic. Say if I am not comfortable in some topic, say Penck diagram. If I did not have good Penck diagram, I went to the internet and copied the diagram from the internet. So I went beyond the prescribed book list only because I had interest in the geography. I was very good at maps, so I saw a lot of maps. I went through Atlas a lot. I used to download a game called World Map Quiz, so that I remember all the country locations, which country is where, what are its neighbors, or where the capital is, where the seas are. So I had interest in geography. So if take only that optional if you have interest. Otherwise you would have to change optional after say 2 or 3 attempts. So this is the most, like if you see, my score is only because I got 298 in the optional. So optional can make or break your score. It can get you from top 50 rank first preference to 200, say 250 rank. So focus on your optional, have interest in your optional, choose the correct optional. you have time. If you have, all of you have chosen your optional, like what optional? So I think like now that you have chosen your optional, stick with that decision. Make your own strategy about how you pursue the option, how you do balance your optional with the GS thing. So now that you have taken decision, I think that was like wasted, since you have already like chosen your optional. Any question till now? Next important thing that I did was value addition. I will tell it in the brief, since I had already covered this thing earlier. So in value addition, what I did was again same thing: data, examples, facts, keywords, quotes, etc. So I would give an examples of how I did. So for GS paper 4, I made a separate, in my notes itself, separate sheet of ethical dilemmas. So in your case studies, they would ask a question about ethical, what are the ethical issues in this case studies, what are the ethical dilemmas. So you have to use the like keywords in those questions. So I had made a separate sheet about all the things that I can use in my case studies. So this was my value addition. I made again separate sheet of GS4 examples or the best practices. Like if a civil servant is doing good initiative, so I made a list. If I found good real life example or the real life case study, for example, wrestler protest or the sexual harassment thing. So I made a note of that so that I can use that in a case studies or even the theory question as example. So I did this. I also made notes of quotes for the GS4 paper. So I made a quote of like I decided previously that if a question come between a conflict between personal and professional values, I would use a quote by India's first cabinet secretary. I don't remember his name. So it was a quote describing if you have personal versus professional conflict, you should choose professional. So I decided previously that कुछ भी question आया, मैं conclusion में वो quote लिख के आऊँगा. So I already prepared a lot of quotes so that in the examination it would become easier for me to conclude. I would not have to think a lot of that. I would not have to waste a lot of time in thinking differentiating my answer. So I did a lot of value addition, not just for GS, for GS3 or GS2, GS1. As I was saying, I made a separate list of examples, data, etc. So this I did. This was the value addition thing. Even for my optional, I did a lot of value addition. You can make a separate sheet of this, separate notebook, or you can add it in your notes. Since I had A4 sheets notes, anything I learned new, anything value addition that I did. For example, in ancient or medieval India, I found something interesting, I found something new that I did not know of. For example, I still remember, I was not sure about the timeline of say Mahabharata. When was Mahabharata written, when was Charak Samhita written, and in one prelims question, it was arranged the things in the chronological order. So I learned from that when written, and I added in my notes. I just took one A4 sheets and just placed it in my notes. Since I used the clipper, it was easier for me. So I did a value addition that way also. I made a separate note, or you can, as I was saying, leave when you are making your notes, leave some spaces for value addition. So this I did in the value addition. If you have any questions in that with respect to the value addition, I think also this will be both gradual process as well more accelerated process after prelims. So before prelims, whatever I found new, as I said, I used to maintain a diary of the current affairs thing. Also in my notes, if I had left space, I used to just write. But after prelims, I gave it just like a consolidated shape, so that I knew which place to look what for. So I had separate for GS1, GS2, GS3. So it was more accelerated after the prelims, more casual before the prelims. So know when to do value addition. That's also important. After prelims, because for prelims you don't do value addition. You are doing value addition for the mains, for differentiating your mains answer, getting extra marks in your mains copy. So that was the timing of the value addition. Next thing I did, I think this is more related to mental health and stuff. because lot of you would be preparing isolating yourself or just preparing individually. I prepared individually. I did not have a lot of friends here. I just had a single room. I prepared just all my own. I did not have any mentors. I don't know any IAS officers in my family or any friend, or I just prepared on my own. So what I did was did not limit myself just to UPSC preparation. Say it was my first attempt. I had life beyond UPSC, as you can say. Did not leave UPSC preparation. So what I did in this, I had few times. So after say few hours in my daily study, if I completed my daily targets before the scheduled time, I used to watch movies, watch cricket, random videos on YouTube, so that I know what's happening around me beyond UPSC. I know what's happening in the pop culture, what's happening in the sports. I used to follow almost all sports, so I knew this helped in getting my mental health right, so that I won't be feeling bored with the preparation. So I used to give every Saturday or Sunday, if I am free, I used to go out and watch movies in the theater with friends. So I used to do this. I used to go play cricket with the friends, discuss all these things with my friends, discuss politics with my friends. So I had discussing politics. So again, this is a two-edged sword. If you discuss politics, it can get very ugly, especially at this age. So we can either do this or not do this. I used to discuss politics with my friends because they are ideologically similar to me. So it used to be very easy. Next thing that I did was, just did not limit myself. I think a lot of in the interview itself, you would require your own personality to show to the boards. So you would get the personality only if you read all the things that's happening. Read beyond UPSC, read some self-help books or read interesting books that you find. Read books beyond what. If my first preference was IFS, I did IFS. If my first I read books for foreign policy. I read Sam Saran's book, or I read Chippo or during my preparation. So I read a lot of different books which are not prescribed by the UPSC mentors or the UPSC coaching centers. So this actually helped me get my personality right, so that I would be more confident that UPSC is not the only thing here. I had a life, even if I could not crack UPSC, I would do good somewhere else. So I was good at quizzing. I used to do quizzes a lot because I was president of my quiz society in college. So I used to do a lot of quizzes. I used to do a lot of debating, mostly in colleges, but I used to do quizzes also in my preparation phase, in the 1 year that I prepared. I used to do all these things. So don't just limit yourself to one thing, that is UPSC, just revising the same thing. Have 2-3 days breaks between all the preparation. If your GS1 paper is complete, or the say optional paper is complete, if you have a Sunday free or Sunday, go watch movie, meet with your friends. That would be good for your mental health. It will rejuvenate you so that you prepare all the other things in a very holistic manner. So I would request you to give focus on your mental health also, because it is a very boring, very boring preparation. You read the same thing again and again. You revise the same thing, give the test, analyze the test. It's very boring. Even for the first attempt student that I was, I found it very boring. So those who are giving 2 or 3 attempts, they would die from the boredom. So have a life beyond UPSC. One thing I think unintentionally happened with me. I was not aware of the myths that are present in the market. So you must have heard a lot of myths, about the UPSC preparation, right? That say this optional is very hard, say in geography marks don't come, or in GS4 you have to prepare this way only, you have to read these books only. So for me, I was not aware of all these things. Why? Because I did not join any coaching, I did not join any Telegram groups or the WhatsApp groups or anything. I was not in contact with any UPSC preparing guy. So all my preparation was very raw, very like suitable to my own personality. So if you are not aware of what's being propagated in the market, you would bring originality in all the papers. Even in the essay, I started one of my essay with cricket. So example of cricket, example of KL Rahul and stuff. So I did the very different things in all this. These things were not different for the sake of it. I did not want to make it different. It was just the extension of my personality, because I did not know that you have to start essay in this way or you have to start GS1 in this way. I just watched few topper talks before starting my preparation, and that's that. Only just watched topper talk, nothing else, and started my preparation. And luckily for me, all fell in place, everything went with the flow. I was not in contact with any mentors. Even for Vinay sir, I met Vinay sir during the mains. Like when he was having a session here, I was giving a test. Then I went to talk with him. So again, I talked with him only 1 or 2 times before mains, and after mains I gave 3 one-on-one interviews. So I had no mentors on anything. I had no fixed formula how to crack UPSC. Everything was just raw and natural. So I don't know whether you are aware of the market myths or not, at what position you are, whether you are just having your own strategy or you are copying other topper strategy. I would request you to just don't blindly follow me. I would be more happy if you like contradict my points with logic. If you stick with your own strategy, just get what is working for you from your own self. Take your own decisions. If you find something interesting from my talk, take that only. Don't just blindly copy me, because my personality is different, my journey has been different, your background is different. So just take whatever you find interesting. When I have never attended a single topper talk physically, so again I was not aware of how the process works. Even now also I don't know how I got that much. I was expecting completely different. I was expecting more than 20 marks in this, more than 10 marks, less than 10 marks in this. I thought my GS2 paper went very bad, less 10 marks in GS4. I was expecting more in GS4 because I completed my paper, because I thought a lot of people did not complete the paper. In optional, I was not expecting more than 280. In interview also, I was expecting at least 180. I got 179. So then I did not expect anything. It happened with me. So I would request you to be raw, bring your own originality. Don't copy what has been going on in the market, what the coaching has been telling you. Listen to them, filter the noise. If you think something would work for you, try that. If it is not working for you, discard that. So bring your own originality to the preparation. I think UPSC is looking for original candidates. They are also very experienced. They are trying to like break the coaching industry. That's why you are seeing different kinds of prelims paper. But like they are doing the completely opposite. They are creating more fear, and like the students will go to the coaching more. But you have to see the intent, what they are trying to do. Even in the interview and mains, they are looking for something original. So I would request you to don't buy the myths and that are going in the market. Have your own strategy, have your own thinking, have your own preparation, and it would work for you. Have confidence in your preparation, because lot of people, when they start, they have confidence. When things don't go their way, for example, they don't get good marks in the test series, or they feel low, they just abandon their whole strategy and start a new strategy. But have a confidence on your strategy. But again, be flexible. You have to take a balance between having confidence on your strategy and also be flexible. Do some addition and subtraction to your strategy, but your core strategy should be same. Have confidence on your core strategy. So any questions till now? Last thing that I did, I think I already told you earlier, was having equal effort and time for all the papers, because you don't know in which papers you would get what marks, because mains at least is very unpredictable. Even in all the stages, it is predictable. It's the most predictable, yet unpredictable. What I don't know if you are getting what I am saying. Prelims is unpredictable, you don't know what's coming. Interview is based on luck. But mains you can score. But at the same time, you don't know in which paper you would score what. So you have to give equal respect to all the papers. A lot of people or toppers say that essay, GS 4 and optional are the most important thing, because GS 1 to 3 is common for everyone. Everyone will read the same thing, write the same thing. But if you see, GS 3 scores vary a lot. A lot of people get in the 70s, 80s, very few get in the 100. Even in the essay this year, I have seen a lot of mark sheet in which essay score is less than 100, or the very highest is around say 150. So there is a lot of variation. Even in the interview, there is lot of variation. Lowest can be 100 and highest can be 210. So you don't know in which you would be like getting more mark. So you have to be confident in each paper, so that you know that I have done good for the essay, I will write a good essay. I have done all the things for the GS1, I have completed my syllabus for GS3, same 3, 4, even the optional, I gave equal focus to all the things. So I was confident that I would do well in all the papers. I was not expecting say particular marks in particular papers. I just went with my common effort for all, equal effort for all, equal time for all. Not equal, I would say proportional time for all. So in essay you don't require a lot of preparation, but I wrote a lot of essay. I compiled few quotes of philosopher and things. So I made an effort for essay, I made an effort for GS, I made an effort for interview. So you have to make equal efforts and proportional time, you have to give proportional time for everything. This was my talk till now. I have not prepared anything more than that. So if you have questions, common questions you can ask.
What hobby you mentioned in the interview?
Hobbies, yeah. I mentioned 4 hobbies, but they did not ask single question from my DAF. So I mentioned about reading books and articles about geopolitics, since my first preference was IFS. Second was quizzing. Third was watching travel and food blogs. I used to watch random vlogs on YouTube. Fourth was discussing tactics used in cricket. I thought that I would write only cricket, but I thought that most of the people would write cricket. So how would I differentiate cricket from something very specific? So I wrote tactics used in cricket. In the mocks they used to ask questions from all these topics, but in the actual interview they did not ask a single. So it's very unpredictable, your interview. You have to be prepared for the unpredictable. You have to be prepared that unexpected questions would come in the interview. I did not say much about the interview, because you would be giving interview after say 2 years, 1.5 years. So what I would say now you might forget then. So I did not think that there is a point of like talking about interview. I don't think there is a lot of strategy for interview. Whatever personality you have, you would get reflected in the scores, or maybe plus minus 20 that happen, or it would depend on your day, depend on your luck. So I don't think there is a lot of strategy for what I did for the interview was just prepared my DAF pointers. So if I mention what are the point, like my college or the home or my profession of my father or something like the hobbies, position of responsibility. Like my college quizzing, name of my college quiz club was Illuminati, of which I was president. So I prepared, like read over what Illuminati was or something like that. So I prepared all my DAFs. Second was like prepared current affairs. I did not make any notes. I just started reading 2-3 newspapers for interview. I read like Indian Express, Mint, Times of India. So so that I get all the things that are, if something is not covered in it was covered in the Mint. If not in the Times of India, in the editorials, I would get different perspective on the same issue. So current affairs I did mostly from these 3 newspapers for the interview. Before the interview, I used to read just Indian Express. I added these 2 after I got a call for in the interview, and just gave lot of mocks. I used to get like very good review in the mocks, but the scores don't reflect that. Again, depends on the day, on your luck. So interview is very lucky thing. So there is no point of talking much about interview. Yeah. Any more questions?
So what do you have prepared for the CSAT?
Since I had a PCM background, I did not prepare anything for the CSAT, but I saw the like 28 wala paper. It was very hard. But again, remember, you don't have to solve all the paper. I was like reading all the analysis of the CSAT. One guy said that it took me 3 hours to complete the paper. But the point is not completing the paper. The point is to get 66 marks. I mean, statistically it's not possible. You would get more than 66. But you have to like get this 66. You have just be, I would say, 70 to 80 range. My score always in all the tests I used to give, I used to score more than 85. So I was confident. I think what's more important in the CSAT now is to like get the like decide which questions you would attempt. So around 25 to 30 questions are comprehension. In that, around 15 to 20 are very easy comprehensions every year, and the rest 5 to 10 are very tricky. So do those 15 comprehensions. And in the maths, I used to like I had like when I used to give tests, I had like decided that I would do these questions because these were easier for me. So I would do say probability questions because I was good at probability. I would do chair wala like thing, who's sitting where, or I would do logical stuff thing, logical reasoning wala thing like blood relations because I was good at it. So I identified what my strengths were in the CSAT and what my weaknesses were. So I did not used to do say permutation and combination because I thought I was not good at this thing. So whenever I saw PNC question, I used to leave that. I won't be doing that question. My logic was only to get comfortable marks in the CSAT, not get 150. So something I also worked on some parts. Say I was not good at those pipe wala thing, like how much time it takes to empty the pipe. Well, so I like went to the YouTube, searched that question and saw how that what's the trick to solve those questions. So I learned those things too. So there are like few types of question in the CSAT. So identify which types are your strength, which types are your weakness, and those weakness you can improve by going to the YouTube and seeing like explainer videos or practicing more questions. If you are not comfortable with PNC, solve more questions, get your doubts solved on the internet. I did not do a lot of those things. I just gave tests. It was easier for me. I have not seen this year paper a lot. I just went through few questions of the CSAT, but I saw that the questions were hard. It was taking more than 90 seconds. That is required. But again, just select the questions that you would do. 15 questions of the comprehension, 15 questions of the maths, and you would get more than 70 in the 30 question. So just select the questions that you would do and also practice CSAT now, right? So I think the logic UPSC is trying to do is that they don't want you to neglect CSAT. So what all the aspirants do, focus on the rest of the stuff, and the CSAT paper like they don't practice anything. They don't even give tests of the CSAT. So they want your equal focus on not just these all papers. Even for prelims and CSAT, they want your equal proportion of time. So give some test of CSAT, see where you lie, see what your strength and weakness are, and decide which questions you would solve. Next question. Yeah, vision evaluated materials are very bulky. Again, I followed the same thing. I read the vision evaluated materials, underlined highlighted the thing, and then again use the phrases thing wala in my notes. The process was same for the books as well as value added material. So the process remains same for note making.
Sir, what is the correct way to read newspaper? Because when I used to read them, it takes like 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours is a very long time for reading newspapers. So for me, I used to read only those things which I found interesting in the newspapers. It took me around 1 hour to read the newspapers. I don't know, is there any method? So you are taking 2.5 hours. Why? You read every news?
Yes, sir.
Again, you don't have to read every news.
Political news and everything.
Don't read like crime news. It won't come in UPSC. Or you don't even have to read all the editorials. Pick those editorials. So my logic was that I would read editorials based on the authors. So if I knew it is written by P.B. Mehta, so weekly column is there of P.B. Mehta in Indian Express. I don't used to read of P.B. Mehta because I consider him not to be a like good writer. or even not relevant for the UPSC. So I did not read P.V. Mehta, I did not read Christopher Jeffrold, or something like that. I did not read someone from the opposition leader if he is writing something, or even some of government, say IAS officer, or even say some minister is writing something. I just used to like go through that, did not read it like extensively. Again, I used to like have few authors in mind, that I would read C. Raja Mohan, I would read Ashok Gulati, or I would read ambassador of some country if he is writing something important, or some guest author is writing. Say sometimes back Australian PM wrote in the Indian Express editorial. So I used to read based on the authors. So also based on the relevance of the editorials, because all editorials or all the opinion pieces are not relevant to the preparation. They are not even interesting, right? So I have focus on what is interesting and what is relevant. So don't read all the things. All the things are, which newspaper are you reading? The Hindu. So read only those things like which are related to read first page, the last page, text and context page is there. So read those page, don't read sport. You are reading sports page also. So don't read sports page, or they read science and tech page. Even in the editorials, read very selectively. Second, third, fourth pages are Delhi pages, and don't read those pages. So it won't take you more than 1 hour. So even for me, I used to read all the things that I found interesting, it never took me more than 1 hour. So you have to like select which news you want to read. How to revise test series? I did not revise test series. You are asking for the prelims or mains? I did not revise test series. I just how to analyze test series, that I would like to say. So when I used to give test, I used to give test in iteration. So in the first iteration, I would do those questions in which I was more than 100% sure. So for me, it used to be vary around 45 to 50 questions in which I was more than 100% sure. Next iteration, I would do around 15 to 20 questions in which I would use elimination or logical guess techniques. Again, elimination has been eliminated this year, so I don't think it is applicable now. In the next iteration, around say 5 to 8 questions, I would take a logical guess again, in which I was sure if I could eliminate 3 options, I would. In this, if I could eliminate 1 or 2 options, I would like attempt these 3 or 8 questions in the third iteration. Next, say around 5 or 6 questions, I would again test my luck. Say these were very factual questions, like X is something related to what. These are like one-liner questions. So I would attempt my luck in those questions. So I used to attempt around 85 questions, like this was my lucky number. So I used to attempt 85 questions. So when I used to come home after giving the test, I did not touch this thing. So if a question is wrong, I used like my accuracy in this was more than 95%. So when 1 or 2 questions were wrong in this part, I used to like mark one for the like first iteration, second for the second, third for the third iteration. So I knew these were the questions that I attempted because I was more than 100% sure. So if there are 1 or 2 questions wrong, I used to just read the synopsis of those 1 or 2 questions, and if there's something conceptual error, it would like subconsciously I would like improve my concepts. If these were factual errors, I would like just go to the notes and add the new facts or add the correct facts or the recall error. I won't do much of the recall error because it would be revision. For these questions elimination, if they were right, I used to like see if my logic that I used for elimination, whether it is correct or not. If there is something new that I learned from this, again used to add it in my notes, or subconsciously if there was conceptual thing, I used to make the mark in my subconscious. Again for these, if these are new things, I used to read the new things. Again I used to see that whether it would come in UPSC or not, because sometimes in test series they ask very vague questions which it won't come in the actual UPSC preparation, but nowadays you can't tell. They can ask very random questions. So I used to like, for these parts that I tested my luck on. I used to read the synopsis of that only. So after the test, it used to take me not more than 45 minutes to do the whole analysis of my test, of the prelims test. So these were my like basic process of analyzing the test. Any more question?
सर मेंस का अगर टेस्ट है, अगर कोई सिलेबस कंप्लीट नहीं होता तो आप फिर देते थे?
थैंकफुली ये मेरे साथ हुआ नहीं बहुत बार, बट अगर टेस्ट सिलेबस कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ, यू कैन पोस्टपोन द टेस्ट फॉर 2 or 3 days. So I gave almost all my tests on time. 2-3 tests I used to postpone it if I did not complete my syllabus. So you can postpone the test. There is no issue in that. शबीर सर वाला, हाँ इंटीग्रेटेड किया था. सो आई हैड माई फाउंडेशन प्लस एनरिचमेंट प्लस टेस्ट सीरीज बिफोर द प्रीलिम. So I had given a lot of optional tests before the prelims itself. So my optional coaching started in April, even before I graduated, April 2021, and completed by March 2022. But it did not take, as I mentioned in my daily schedule, I just spent 4 hours daily, on 2 hours for the class and 2 hours for the revision and value addition thing. So 4 hours daily till March I could give easily. So it was not very difficult for me to like simultaneously prepare optional and GS. Again, it would vary depending on your optional, how long your syllabus is, or whether you have joined any coaching or not. But for me, since I joined, so basic foundation was completed by January. January to March there was enrichment plus test series. So again I used to just revise and do some enrichment and give test series. So it was not very time consuming for me. So I balanced the whole thing. Just 4-hour preparation for the optional. Any more questions? I think we are done with the session then. Thank you so much for listening to me. Again, I don't know what actually worked in the examination. No one knows. If you find something interesting, keep your add it to your own strategy. If you don't find it interesting, not applicable to you, discard them. I did not copy any toppers, or did not even if I copied the topper, I don't remember the face to. I don't know which topper said what. I watched it like a story thing. I watched it like we watch YouTube videos. So I just watched it. If I found something interesting, it went into my subconscious. So when I was actually preparing those things, my subconscious I tried to apply those things. For example, if I had watched in a topper talks how to structure the answer, I don't know who said that how to structure the answer, but I used to apply the application part in my exam, in my preparation. So I don't want to remember my face or name, but if you find something interesting, do apply it in your preparation. If you don't have any question, I think we are done with the session. I think it has been almost more than 2 hours. So thank you for being here. If you have any thoughts, I would give you my email. I don't plan on opening a Telegram channel or anything. I check my mails daily, so I would reply it in less than 24 hours. So my mail ID is subham.vvrs@gmail. So if you have any doubts, you can mail me in the email ID. So that's that. If you don't have any questions, thank you so much.